the train don't stop. Better get right, better get right. Better get right before the Lord get ready. Better get right, see the light. Better get right before the Lord get ready. Time will come, no one can tell. So just raise the glass, say farewell. Well, I might be right, and I may be wrong, but I got a feeling in my bones. You better get right, you better get right, better get right.
Yeah, I think we're doing it. Look at us.
Look at us.
Look at us.
Still alive.
I barely. No, I'm joking.
We're in our prime. What are you talking about?
We are. I'm glad to see you.
Good to be seen.
Yeah, 100%. I know you got so many cool things going on. We can talk about a whole lot, but you know, one of my favorite things about you is that when I think about how good all my friends are, and I say this without any reservation, you're definitely one of the absolute best at what you do.
Well, thank you.
And
a lot coming from you.
Well, don't give me too much credit.
Yeah. You've been around.
We are friends.
We all know this.
But in the same sense, you know, everything you've always done is a super high caliber. And I think the definition of excellence is probably, well, it varies for sure. But when it comes to putting out the level and the quality of music that you've put out over the course of your career, what do you think the key to that excellence has been in making sure that everything that you put out is worthy of something you feel like has your name stamped on it?
Well, part of the truth of that is probably self-hatred is a pretty good motivator.
What do you mean?
Well, just being hard on yourself, you know.
Sure.
So I have no shortage of that.
Yeah.
It takes time to learn how to make that a good thing, you know. But, yeah, a lot of it, it's not that hard once you're surrounded by people that have the same goal as far as the level of musicianship or professionalism or growth or whatever that is. When you're surrounded by those people, it's pretty easy for that to be at the front all the time. So, but being hard on yourself is very motivating.
Sure.
And I expect a great deal from myself, and so that's probably has a lot to do with the way I grew up. You know, a lot was expected of me, and it's, you know, we all fall short all the time, but I don't plan to ever do that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
100%.
I'm 100% or nothing guy.
Yeah. Now, is there any grace in there that you give? I mean, what deserves grace when it comes to seeking perfection or excellence?
Well, I definitely give myself more grace than I used to. It's especially when it comes to the moment. You know, if something doesn't come out just perfect in the moment, I understand the value of a moment now, so I'm not too hard on myself in something that just passes by. I can walk away from that versus looking back going, God, I could have been better there. I don't do that. I'm very forward thinking as far as that kind of stuff concerned. Like, well, next time it'll be something else.
When you seek a level of excellence, I say there's the old saying, birds of a feather, right? So you've attracted some really good friends, and you've worked with a lot of really great people.
Yeah. Makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it does.
And it raises the bar.
Yeah.
I'm always the dumbest person in the room on purpose.
You and me both.
Yeah. I found that out a long time ago. Yeah. You know, if you're the smartest guy or the best guy in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Well, who's the person, though, that continues to, that you have around you that just continues to inspire you and continues to be one of those people that drives you to move the bar up for what you really think excellence
Well, there's a
is
lot
all
of
about.
them. Pretty much everyone in the band, which is really unique. I mean, to have 8 people in any band that much less just get along, much less are in sync musically at a high level. Trevor Nealon that plays keys with me, he's a really unique musician. I mean, he wakes up and he goes to work. He's always learning something. If there's a song that he hears and he's like, man, that's wonderful, he'll sit down and he'll learn it right then. He's always listening. He's always sending me music. He's always, for somebody that's all he does. And he takes it very serious. He's never complacent, always excited, always feeding himself new things. So that's a great influence. He's one. I couldn't exclude anyone in the band. The girl that sings with us, Alice Spencer, is a great artist and a great singer, and her influences and what she brings is always stretches me out of my, I can stay in my little, I like that, and, well, I'm not sure I like that, I'll never listen to it again. Like, she's good at going, well, no, here's a thread to follow, and I think you'll end up loving it. So she keeps my mind open.
Yeah. Something to be said about a woman's touch.
For sure. And they know how to trick you into it, and you didn't know what happened.
All day
Next
long.
thing you know, it's like, man, I love Harry Nilsson now. Like I just never would go down that road if it wouldn't have been, for her. So I've gone down a lot of musical rabbit holes, which have just broadened my influence, which is what I want. Working with Kevin McHenry's been a huge help in a lot of ways. He's helped me to be more solid in what I do and what I bring and the value of that and
well, I don't know personally, but I know of his son Yates, and I think to myself, if that's what's coming from that camp, then, man, there is something happening right.
Those are several special humans.
Yeah, they are. 100%.
There's greatness, and then there's other things.
Sure.
That Yates is otherworldly.
Sure.
I mean, we'll be at the kitchen during the break. His studio's just a back house, and we'll go in the kitchen and have lunch or something, and you'll hear this sound from upstairs, and he's just up there just free-forming on a guitar. And 1 minute it sounds like Thelonious Monk, and then it sounds like Otis Rush, and then it sounds like nothing you've ever heard, and then it sounds like him. It's just he just sits in there and digs in his brain and his soul. It almost sounds painful.
Really?
Yeah. It's like he can't not do it. If he doesn't do it, something will happen.
How cool.
Yeah. It's wonderful to watch.
What was your first gig? You remember that first gig? You remember first time you ever played in front of anyone? I mean, I'm not talking about professionally. I'm talking about in live.
Yeah.
You remember it? Mm-hmm. What was you doing?
I was playing at the Strand Street Saloon in Galveston, Texas, which is the best murder hole ever. A real one.
Right.
A real live murder hole. And my biological dad lived in Galveston at the time, and he was in the house band there, 98 in the Shade.
Nice.
And they were
in the Shade.
They were all badass.
Right.
All old road dogs. Old dudes, hard dudes. 100-watt Marshalls in a little club. Wow. I mean, White Elephant size, give or take. Yeah, one level. But Bobby Mack. I don't know if you're familiar with Bobby Mack.
Night Train?
Bobby Mack, Night Train. Bobby McClung, but Bobby Mack.
What are you talking about?
I was a fan already. He was on the jukebox at the Strand. And so he played there. I was fresh out of high school. And he asked me to sit in. I sat in with him, played all night. Actually got in the van with him that night and went to the next 2 gigs with him. So I went my first little sit-in gig. We played Palace of the King, Freddie King, and I remember I had my tube screamer.
Right.
That's when I was playing flat on my lap. I don't know if you know about
No,
this.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
You were playing flat? No,
I
like
started
a Jeff Healey kind
I
of
started
thing?
that way.
Well, there's something.
There's a whole nother story there.
Yeah.
But I was still doing that. And, of course, it was kind of a pony trick to everybody else, but that's just how I played. I put it down for that reason. It was not really I didn't think it had long-term legs, turned to a gimmick. But he looked at me like, all right, it's your turn. And I hit my thing and closed my eyes and probably played everything I could possibly think of. And when I finally opened my eyes and everybody's kind of looking at me, I guess it wasn't bad. It didn't seem like it was good, but we're good. And he leaned over and he goes, "You ate all your cookies." It's the old school generation, like you sit in with the old school, you get the lesson.
And he said everything right there.
Right there. And I knew exactly what he meant. Yeah. You can sit in with people now and just not even ask and just jump up and nothing happens. But it's old school. He's like, "Man, you just ate all your cookies." Yeah. And from that point, I just took everything and cut it in half. Yeah. And I've cut it in half several times since then. Yeah. So there must have been a lot.
Wow. That's funny.
What a great guy.
Yeah, man. Those first gigs, they really, it's funny how you think you're going to go one direction, you end up going another. Blues has always been a thing. I know that, as friends, it's dear to me, dear to you. I mean, you've played with and made records with just some of the great hands and all the rest. Do you feel like it's a trap? I mean, when it comes to your career, do you feel like it's one of those things that if you fall down that little plinko hole that direction too far, you're just not going to get back? And because of the current state of that music, it's hard to recover from. Do you feel like that's like the whole blues thing is a kiss of death these days in the industry?
I think it can be done improperly for sure, which, with all due respect, I would never lump everybody into it, but every genre has its lackluster music, blues is not immune to that at all. Agreed. And I think that type of music is such a human emotion, visceral, emotional thing that it's not as simple as just writing a song and singing it. I'm not saying that it's harder than other genres, and those genres don't have emotion and feeling and aren't important. But with blues, man, you get revealed so quickly if that's not truly who you are. And so it can be the kiss of death in that way for sure. For me, the kiss of death that I worked hard to avoid, and I'm fortunate that I came to the sense to realize this, is the whole guitar slinger reputation, like music made for guitar slinging. And there are so many people that are so good at that. And as a young person, I know that was on my mind. Like, I love playing guitar. I want to write this song this way so that I can be awesome right here. And it took precedence. Sure. And the guitar hero thing, that's a hard sack to carry forever. There's a few of those guys, guys like Joe Bonamassa and stuff like that can really impact somebody with their instrument in that way for that length of time, that often. Sure. That's not me. It's not what I did it to the point to where I started to hate it. And so it was helpful for me to pull away from that at a young age and not get too caught up in guitar as the king. Yeah. It's just a very small piece of a big puzzle.
And there's so many greats that, I think of the David Grissams of the world. Now, obviously, he hasn't been overlooked, but in the grand scheme, there's so many really great guitar players that unfortunately fell in that umbrella. And, when you think about the crowd that goes and you think about it ain't 22-year-old girls drinking White Claws.
No, sir.
It's a little bit of a different animal.
Yeah.
So I imagine that makes it tough in itself.
It does.
You've been real smart about kind of carving out this whole thing of your own. Really, nobody does what you do anymore. I mean, and I say this with every compliment. Delbert did what you do.
Yeah, for sure. And, very similar.
And there are some similars.
Yeah.
But this whole country funk kind of cool thing that you do, where did it come from? I mean, is it rooted in the blues for you, or where did those influences ultimately bring you to this 8-piece band and a guy that looks like you, you'd probably wind up
Yeah, it
singing
doesn't make any sense.
something different. But you know,
yeah. Well, the short answer is I stopped trying to be somebody I wasn't, and that sounds a little bit like I'm skirting that real answer. But you know, when I really got into music as a young man, the kind of music that I was listening to was deep grooves, it was funky stuff. There was, you know, B3s and distorted guitars and horn sections, and that's the stuff that I really loved. But why would I aspire to do that in King County when I'm probably the only guitar player within 80 miles? Like, it just seems so far-fetched. It would seem like going from one act play to doing a blockbuster movie. It just didn't seem like that was something that was worth putting energy in. Putting 3 guys together and banging it out, it's pretty easy to do. And I just started doing that and didn't really, until I reached a spot where I thought, man, I'm not fulfilled. I'm not happy with this. This is not, I wasn't working on my craft. I was just road dogging. And once I kind of set that down and said, what do you want to do? Do that all the way, no matter how hard it is. Having an 8-piece band is not realistic for anyone, especially when you refuse to play 6-piece or 4-piece or 3-piece or, you know, it's everything or it's nothing. Best thing I ever did. And if you have people that believe in what you're doing together, they'll all make the sacrifices that they can to help you do that. And so I really think it's always what I wanted to do, but I never allowed myself to do that because it just seems so ridiculous, you know, to carry 7 people around and try to treat them fairly. And, you know, it's a trick.
if you were gonna, obviously our music is our passion, so I know that what you do is your thing. But if you were gonna do something different, if you said right now, man, I've always wanted to do this too, though, and it wasn't a career changing thing, or just a passion play, what would you do?
I'd either be a horseback all the time or have a fishing pole in my hand all the time,
Really?
probably. If we're not talking about making money.
Right.
Yeah. I like teaching, things. I enjoy that. And working with young people, and so something along those lines.
Yeah, that's
probably.
great.
Yeah.
And that's evident. I know in your personal life, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has been something that's caught on in the United States, obviously, since the UFC brought it in, made it very popular. But a lot of people, I think, sometimes still to this day, it's a largely misunderstood art. It's a beautiful game, a great way to learn to be healthy, and also a fantastic way in very special circumstances to possibly defend yourself.
Yeah.
But that's been something that you've become passionate. What got you into that, and to begin with, and where are you with it right now?
The quickest way to love jiu-jitsu is to get put on your back and not know what to do.
Yeah.
And so I've been on my back, and I've always known that was an important part of the piece. But if you're training something else already, it's hard to put that down, because the culture of that world is telling you this is the way. And so you're doing this, and then to break off and do this as a man who works and has a family, as you know, as a man it's always hard to find time to train. I kind of need to pick one thing and stick with it. And so once I realized the value of the way that you are allowed to train in jiu-jitsu and kickboxing versus taekwondo or karate or jeet kune do, or all those have value of sorts. But when you train jiu-jitsu, you're going to mess around and change your life if you stick with it, and as you well know.
It's kind of interesting how it works that way. It's, I think when we think about gym culture and we think about people who regularly get involved and are avidly involved, CrossFit members, a great example of someone who just gets in and, man, they just go all in, because the amount of personal progress and change that CrossFit acts as a vehicle for is just, it's so powerful, and it does it so well. Jiu-Jitsu does the same thing. I think for me, I was most affected by the fact that I realized in my first experiences when I first started training how unprepared I was as a man, right? To move, to think, to react
Under bad circumstances.
And under bad circumstances,
Panic.
yeah. And then also to know what I was actually going to do. And when I mean have a plan, I'm talking about have a plan. Wow, how vulnerable I was. And you know, I there was this lady when I first started training. There was this lady named Sue Osman, and she was, oh, hello Sue. She's probably 5'2" and 105 pounds at best. And you know, I got handled real fast, and the level of humility that I experienced on every day was just something that I should have hated it, but man, I just loved it.
That's a good sign. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you at these days with it?
As far as like
Rank.
Brown.
You're brown belt.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Yeah, so I'm still going. They say
Lethal.
what are they? They say a purple belt is a black belt that hadn't put in the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know what a brown belt is, but it's in there between. I'm just showing up until they go, hey. Yeah, I don't ever think about that, and I don't think most people do. I mean, I know some people that chase belts, and I get that. I'm not a words of affirmation or a rewards motivated person. You know,
Sure.
I love to show. I love routine and show up and do the work. But
What's your favorite technique? Where are you strongest?
smashing.
Yeah, of course you are. Of course you are.
Yeah. That's
Half guard passing, smashing, laying preg,
smash, paper
arm
cutter.
triangles.
Yeah, make you tired and then
Yeah.
just take it.
See you later.
If
See
I
you
can,
later. Yeah.
unless I'm tired and being took. Yeah.
What's
No.
your weakness?
Feet,
Ah,
foot defense. I can scramble and I can, but as far as keeping myself out of danger of these, what I call the millennial jujitsus, I make
Yes.
fun of them all the time because they smoke me with all their leg.
foot locks and leg
Oh,
locks and
yeah.
finger locks and invisible locks.
Yeah, all the names of all the things that sound like
Yeah.
sushi,
Yeah.
umanari, and this and
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
As soon as you start rolling, I'm just moving.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stand here for that. So,
Yeah.
but that's probably my biggest weakness is a real good
Foot locker.
foot locker.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
Like them.
I don't like him.
Foot
I don't like him as people.
and wrists.
Yeah.
So you might as well be a wrist.
You
locker.
wrist lock me, you better
they're-
hope that's the last match.
Ain't
That hurts
the
my
truth?
feelings.
Yeah, me too. It's like it's personal.
Yeah.
Even if I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing ever.
I never wrist lock anybody, but if I do, it's a joke, and I'll go, hey, just to let you know,
Yeah.
I'm about to wrist lock you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't be mad.
Man, I've had it happen a couple times that it does make you mad quick.
It does.
Because it's the one thing that you know that could hurt you for a while.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like ribs, but ribs you have to really try, or it's an accident kind
Yeah,
of thing. Or
you can get it done.
If you pull your neck, it's a very normal thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a big deal. You go inverted, the next day you walk
Yeah.
around like this. But a wrist lock,
That's personal.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
almost
bad
like a
news.
white belt grabbing fingers. You know?
Oh my lord, white
Yeah.
belts grabbing fingers.
Yeah, you learn a lot about people doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. What's your favorite song you ever wrote, Seth? You wrote some good ones, man.
That's tough. You know, it's usually the newest thing. But if I was to really look back over 25 years, Cigarettes, Anger, and Wine has been in the set, has never gone away. I've never gotten tired of it. People haven't stopped responding to it. There's a lot of pride in that, you know.
Yeah.
It never was the one, but it kind of became the one. That
Sure.
one or Sweet Lord, which is just more of a personal thing. Yeah, that's, I guess, you know, if I'm
That's
looking
good.
at the whole picture, probably that one.
There's a wide scope of territory that you cover. And one of my favorite songs that you've written is Third Generation.
I like that one.
Right.
Proud of that one.
You should be.
Yeah.
Why was that so personal to you?
Growing up in King County, ranch culture, cowboys, all that thing, you know, you're so entrenched in families and history and, well, you know, stories of the old man that used to run the 4-6s, you know, Jimbo Humphreys and this cowboy. It's just, they were all legends. But you learn about their families and you learn about the hardships and, you know, whether it be drought or depression or anthrax or whatever came through and made the rancher's life hard, which it's that way all the time. You really start to see what it takes for something to live on for 100 years. A working ranch, which is a wonderful thing, and for your life and for your trade and horses and dirt and tradition. It's a whole nother world. And when you see those old places like that they're so rich with, these ranches, we need the kind of people that these places make more than anything. And when one of them goes away, which is inevitable, no one likes change, but a lot of times they go out in not such a pretty way. There's maybe one of the young ones doesn't want to do that and go back home, which is understandable. And somebody passes away and they fuss and they fight and they don't know how to talk to each other and they never speak to each other again and they split it up 10 different ways, and it's a big loss for a nation. It's a big loss, and I've seen a lot of that. And
I think a lot of the population of people that understand what a loss it is truly is so small that is one of the reasons why it goes largely overlooked. And it doesn't matter if you're from West Texas or if you're from Wyoming, or if you're from Montana or you're from New Mexico. There's a breed of person that comes out of that environment.
You need them.
That is of quality that you just can't reproduce in any city.
That's right.
And you can't reproduce it in any kind of artificial, like it has to be the thing or it's not.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It really, the type of human that lifestyle creates, the old fashioned way of doing it, that's the only place you can make them.
So, Delbert McClinton. I think it goes without saying that he started and carved this thing in the history of Texas music that is unlike anybody, and his reputation is, well deserved as one of the best to ever do it and hold a microphone to his mouth.
Absolutely.
His absolute, casual but gentlemanly and fox-like way of being able to sing.
Effortless.
This dude is just, it's nothing. It's
He
like
was born
velvet.
that. He was born that way. Yeah.
Tell me about what it was like recording a record knowing that you were singing in his stead.
Whew. There were some heavy moments in that.
Yeah.
I always wanted to do that record, but it felt a little sticky. I've known him in some form or fashion. I'm closer with him now, but for 25 years. And you don't get to know somebody like that by trying to get to know them. It either happens naturally or it doesn't happen at all. And what was the question? Going back.
No, I'm just,
Getting to
the what is the impact that he's had on you in the way of, just shaping the whole course of your career, and most importantly, what was that impact on recording his music?
Okay, yeah. Well, first off, hearing Delbert for the first time, I remember exactly where I was standing. I remember what song it was. It's the first time I had heard anything like that. I found out he was from Lubbock. It didn't make any sense to me. In my small world, I just thought everybody out there were cowboys and welders and farmers and hardworking people, which when he sang in his songs, that's what he sounded like. So I just assumed that Delbert was just some old cowboy from Lubbock. And he was still, might as well have been Elvis to me. It was so far-fetched from where I was standing at the time. But that was probably the beginning of permission. Like, you can do anything you want. This doesn't have to make sense.
Right.
You can have a steel guitar run through a fuzz box with a B3 going, and if it's genuine and natural to you, you can do it, man. It doesn't. You don't have to sound like this guy or that guy, and you just don't think about that when you're young, being original and sounding like no one else, and that's not really part of the game yet. But that's where I really got the idea of like, oh, wait a minute, you can do whatever you want. You know, you don't have to follow a path of country music, or you don't have to just be a blues guy. You can just do your thing. So he was very instrumental. And I say this all the time. If I hadn't heard Delbert McClinton, I'm pretty sure that I wouldn't be doing this the way that I am. I'd probably still be living out at the ranch, which I'm totally cool with. But I never would have been touched that deep in a formative time. You know, I could have gotten distracted and gone off to other things. But since I did know him and did have a relationship with him when I wanted to do this record, I didn't want to do it and it seemed like it was a coattail thing, you know. And I wanted it to land right with him. Now, I wasn't thinking about the public. I wasn't thinking about his fans. I was thinking about how he would feel having somebody young doing all his old songs that he does not do and hasn't done in years, with the exception of maybe one. You know, it was important to me that there was this family there. And it's important that it happened right. So COVID happens. He obviously retires. He's already in his, I think he turns 80 during COVID, probably, give or take. He got steel, which means he got old. You know, it caught up with him. He started to look his age, which he never did.
Right.
I mean, and he still sounds great. I mean, and I have the proof.
Right.
But we were recording the record we're doing now. We got about 3 songs in, and Delbert came by the studio, and I saw him, and he looked great, but he had aged. And not to be morbid, but I just immediately thought, I'm not going to do that record if he passes. I'm not going to do it afterwards because it will mean nothing. You know, I need him to. I don't need his approval or him to say, "Man, you did a great job," but I need to be able to talk to him and give it to him and you know, bounce ideas off of him. And I just want to make sure, you know, it was something he would be proud of and not do it after the fact. So we started it immediately. Started it that day. I already knew the songs. The band I wanted to do for those specific songs already in the room. So we track them the whole time. We're back and forth with Delbert. You know, we're doing this one. It was fun. It was a real fun moment. What was scary was when he and I and a songwriter and friend of both of ours, but Gary Nicholson, him and Delbert are kind of numero uno partners, songwriting wise. We went to breakfast. And then when we got done with breakfast, Delbert said, "What are y'all doing?" I said, "Well, we're going to write." He said, "I'm going to write with y'all." So come on, let's go. So we just drive down the road. And as soon as we walk in the studio, Delbert sits down and he goes, "Play it for me." I said, "Play what?" He said, "I know you have mixes." I'm talking roughest of rough mixes, no horns, scratch vocals, just a band and me, all the songs done. He says, "I won't hear them." So, okay. So the studio monitors and speakers are over here. It's not a lot bigger than this. And we had to plug the phone in to play it. So the cable was this long. So I had to sit on the floor, cross-legged, this far from Delbert, who, even after all these years, it's still Delbert to me. I mean, we have a casual friendship, but it's still Delbert. But more importantly, I'm singing his songs. They're rough mixes. He's sitting right there. He does not spare anything. I mean, if it's a true thought and it comes through his head, he's going to say it. So it's a dangerous place to be. And it was the best experience I ever had in my life, musically.
Really?
Yeah. It was highly emotional.
Really?
I kept it together, but yeah. To watch someone who's in their twilight years, especially songs that they're so far behind them. I mean, I doubt that stuff ever crossed his mind. And Delbert doesn't know he's great. He's just a man. You know, he's hard on himself like anybody else. But to watch his face and to watch him remember those songs and watch him get emotional, it was something else.
I bet.
It was something else. I'll never.
bet.
Yeah.
When was the last time you spoke to him?
Last week.
Good.
He calls me about once a week.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Give or take. Depends. But
Yeah.
he sends me songs. It's so fun.
I bet.
Old songs, old demos that have that cool thing.
Yeah.
And then songs just him and acoustic guitar, and they're all great. You know, he still loves music. He's still excited. He still wants music to be out there. And there's just a huge sense of purpose and pride that he's willing to go, hey, I can't sing this anymore because I'm 80 and it's about chasing girls, and I don't think I can pull it off, you know.
Right.
Once you take a look at this, I think maybe you might, you know, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
you know,
it is.
And they're all great. You know, it's not like he sent, you know.
Well, you're
stinkers.
kind of known for picking good ones yourself.
Well, I'm a little picky.
Yeah, you got a new one coming out.
Yeah.
I know you've been working on it.
Yeah.
You know, Good Life was just a great record. Different Hat was just, to me, was just that much better. Different in its own right, but just, you know, She Likes to Run.
Yeah.
Anson.
Anson.
How did that happen? I mean, really,
With
not
Anson?
that it's improbable,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah.
What made that come together? Because, you know, it's easy to see you around Leroy Parnell, or it's
Yeah.
easy to see you around Delbert, but that was a surprise for me.
Well, I've known Anson for a while. We were never, you know, super close, but just in passing. Lewis Stevens knew him, and I had met him through Lewis and kind of gone through the sitting in kind of phase and friends on that level. Really, I think, if I remember correctly, the first Delbert cruise is where he and I just really realized that we're the same people. He's a great guy. That's kind of how that started, and he's just a champion for me, you know. And for somebody like that to, you know, stick their neck out in the music business, that doesn't happen very often these days. You know, everybody's, not because people are so selfish, but we're so busy grinding. A lot of the older generations, you know, they spent their whole career mentoring and helping people as part of the musician culture. And now I don't see that near as much. You know, people are just gung-ho and going, and it's hard, and you got to get up early and get it done, and you can't help but be driven and focused on your own thing. And meanwhile, the young people around you are forced to just learn the hard way, which is good, but you can really help a young person with some real basic stuff, you know. Yeah. And that's kind of, they still have that, you know. And Delbert has that. He's extremely selective in the way he does that. But Anson's the same way, you know. He's very encouraging and very genuine and really interested in what I'm doing, and really, you know, he's a great cheerleader. And that's pretty awesome because it's Anson.
Oh, he's super cool, man.
It's the best of the best.
He is. In fact, I had the privilege of watching him at the King Biscuit Blues Festival in Helena, Arkansas, a couple years ago. And I think Christian Dozler was playing keys for him. And it was, you know, I saw all those guys up there. And growing up as a youngster, few decades ago in Dallas, Fort Worth, in the blues scene, it immediately transported me back to that. It immediately transported me back to that moment and that music that I really love. And it's the real thing.
It's the realest.
It's the real thing. So
if you can do blues like that, it ain't a curse.
It ain't,
you know,
a curse,
what a blessing. It lives forever, and everyone loves it. You know, it's just, there's nothing like it. But it's a select few that went to school enough and ate the right things, and
I agree,
musically, to be that.
So again, you got a new one coming out. Tell me about it.
Hopefully, they said August. I think they're fibbing, so I don't really know exactly when, but soon. It's all finished. It's called Motor Mouth.
Oh, appropriate. You wrote some songs about
when I was a little boy, believe it or not, that I talked a lot. I don't remember, but I do hear stories from victims.
Yeah.
And I do remember my dad's dad. We were they were lake folk, best of lake folk, and we were riding in the lake truck, and apparently I was just going and just wouldn't stop. And I don't ever remember him cussing in my vicinity ever, but he said, "God damn it, boy, do you ever shut up?" And it hit me. I felt it.
Yeah.
And I think right then I just kind of like my guitar playing. Right there I just cut it in half. And ever since then I've just been cutting it in half.
Right.
There's no need to say it. There's no need to say it.
Is it a new step out for you? Is it kind of more of the same along the style that you are accustomed to? But
I'm challenging people a little bit, I think.
Great.
You know, I'm just keeping them on their toes. For me personally, I don't feel like there's anything I'm stepping out of, but I did 2 tracks with the time jumpers. You familiar with time
No,
jumpers?
I'm not.
Yeah, they're the pinnacle of Western swing, and they're all old school. They're Nashville, residents, but they're all the best of the best, guys that have played with George
Is that
Jones.
Mike and
Vince Gill's in the band now.
Is he really?
Ranger Doug, from the.
wow, you had those boys play.
Well, Ranger Doug was there. Vince Gill wasn't there, but Paul Franklin on steel, which he did.
Wow.
He didn't make it. He had his understudy, who he's been bringing along as his replacement. But Franklin's out with Chris Stapleton.
Oh, wow.
Pretty good gig.
One last dance on a hardwood floor. One more round, and then one more. One last tune, I wanna hear the fiddle moan. I got a feeling in my bones. Betty